All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing, and today we're going to be talking about that early pre-spawn muddy water. Where do these fish go? And, how do they react to this, a lot of rain and stuff like that coming in, muddy in your lake, little baits and stuff like that you can use to target those fish and get a lot more bites. So either way, stay tuned. It's something you don't want to miss. All right, guys, so, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like the video, subscribe down below. I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing, and comment if you ever have any questions. I love hearing from you guys, even if you just want to talk fishing. So either way, we're going to be talking about 4 baits, and we're also going to be talking about where these fish go, how they react to the muddy water and stuff like that. If you're like me and you have a lot of clay banks on your lake, it can get extremely muddy. And when I say extremely muddy, I'm talking like inches of visibility. Now, with that being said, there's like 2, I guess you could say, strategies that I use when I'm going this time of year and the lake's extremely muddy. You'll see fish deep. I found fish, in 25 plus feet of water. There's also that population of fish that live shallow, and those are the ones that I typically like to target, because the ones that are deeper, it's kind of like you got to get it right next to them, and a lot of times they just don't want to eat, especially early pre-spawn. So you're kind of mixing 2 difficult situations with what you got going on already. Now, with that being said, you got the fish that are deep and the fish that are shallow. The fish that are shallow are the ones that I typically like to target. Now, where are these fish typically going to be positioned? Now, a lot of times, they're going to be in those areas where we talked about in our earlier video, like at the mouths of creeks and stuff like that. But now, sometimes they can push up shallow, but they're staying on isolated cover, whether that's a lay down, just a stump that's coming up out of the water, a hard spot with some dead grass or something like that in it, something similar to that situation. Now, one thing I want you to understand is, we still got cooler water temps, so making multiple casts to a high percentage area is definitely going to be key. And what I mean by a high percentage area is, if I see that lay down, or I see that stump, or I see that spot of dead grass that's got a hard spot in it, then I'm going to make 7 to 8 casts at that one spot to see if I can get a fish to react that may be there. It's just an old school type of fishing. So in summary, we're looking for the points that are at the mouths of the creeks, the ditches that are in the creeks, and then those channel swings even in the creeks and close to those mouths of the creeks are typically going to be great areas. Transition zones also are going to be great areas for you to target, where you'll catch a lot more fish. Now, let's talk about some baits. One of the main ones that I like to use when that water gets extremely muddy, that is that Booyah Covert series. Okay, so we were fishing the other day, like I said, about 3 inches of visibility at the most. I'm talking about not 3 inches for me, but 3 inches for the fish. Okay, they're not going to see, or I'm not going to see near as far as they can. But either way, it's extremely muddy. Using that Covert series with that bright red head, the blue skirt, with the chartreuse, the orange kicker, the copper Colorado blade, those Colorado blades are going to put out a lot of vibration. The fish are going to be able to see it a lot easier. They're going to be able to feel it a lot easier, because a lot of times these fish, what they do, that cover, they're going to push up against it, and they're going to be feeding off that lateral line. Okay, they're going to be feeding off of that. They're going to feel the vibration of whatever's close to them, and they're going to move towards that target area. So, increasing the vibration, increasing visibility is going to give you your best chance for those fish to bite that bait and get it, not just swipe at it or whatever, or go hunting for it and can't find it, whatever the case may be. And a lot of times, if they're hunting for it and they can't find it, and you're making multiple casts to that same spot, they're eventually going to bump into it. Now, another one that I like to use, especially if I'm fishing those laydowns, or even just hard spot areas where the fish like to congregate in one small confined area, that's going to be, a football head jig. And this is one made by Hags Baits. This is a really good spring color. I forget what they call it, but super inexpensive jig. But either case, it's kind of like a micro jig. It's super small. I mean, you can see, it's about, from the hook to the head, it's about half the length of my finger, but it's a 3/8 ounce, and it's a tungsten jig. And it's got that heavy head where you can cast it however you need to. You can fish it and, you know, kind of decent wind speeds and stuff like that. But, you know, teaming that up with like a grub that's a red bug or, you know, something like that, giving that crawfish color, something bright, and, you know, teaming it up with that trailer where it puts out some of that vibration, you can get a lot more bites doing that. Now, I'm typically still going to be dragging that jig because I'm not trying to do anything wild. The water temperatures are still cool. But, you know, as it increases, you know, the water temps, you can, you know, bump up to like a rage craw or, you know, whatever you prefer to use that's got a little bit more action than a grub. Now, the next one that I want to talk about, this is just an OG one. This is a, you know, a chatterbait, okay? This is the jackhammer. And, you know, everybody has their opinion on chatterbaits. I've just got a lot of the jackhammers, so I still use them. But if you guys will, drop comments down below and let me know what chatterbaits you use, you know, that other people can save money on, that I can save money on, besides having to buy the jackhammers. But I'm typically going to throw it with that freeloader on the back of it, the Rapala freeloader, and I'm running it on fluorocarbon or braided line. I run it on fluorocarbon the other day just because I didn't want to swap to braided line. But either way, I would highly suggest if the water is extremely muddy to just, you know, go ahead and swap to braid. We just didn't have a lot of time, didn't feel like messing with it. But, you know, you can catch them on the fluorocarbon or the braided line either way. But the braided line is going to, you know, if you're throwing up in lay downs and stuff, once that fish bites, you're going to have a higher percentage of getting that fish out of that cover before you get all tangled up and stuff like that. But, you know, I'm slow winding that bait. I'm slow winding it sometimes to the point where I can't even really feel the bait. I'm just watching my rod tip, make sure my rod tip's moving. Either way, let's talk about the last bait, and this is no shocker to anybody, but that's going to be, you know, a lipless crankbait, rattle trap. Booyah one knocker. That's one of my favorite ones this time of year. I just don't think a lot of people throw the one knocker. I think a lot of people are throwing the one with the or any brand that has the tiny rattles all in it. That one knocker has a different sound, and on top of that, I can work this bait multiple ways as far as jigging or, you know, whatever the case may be. Maybe you found an area, you know, like that ditch I was talking about, and those fish are pushed 25 foot deep. That rattle trap's going to be a great go-to. Berkeley makes a good one. The Berkeley War Pig, I used it for years, but it doesn't have that one knock sound. It's got the multiple rattles, but it's great for going through cover. This Booyah one knocker is pretty good about going through cover. Do get hung up a pretty good bit, but, you know, if you can see the head of the bait, I don't know if you can see it, but it's all kind of dinged up and stuff from bringing it through cover and stuff like that. But you know, you can fish that bait kind of either way, but those are typically the baits that I'm going to use. Now, on top of the areas, if you hadn't already signed off, on top of the areas, one thing I did forget to mention is the run-ins. The run-ins that are close to the mouths of the creeks is going to be, typically is going to be amazing. You may have to fish 15 of them, but, you know, once you find that one, it's like, you know, the Golden Brick Road. There is going to be tons of fish right there in that area. So, you know, you can use those baits also, especially if that water's muddy. If it's not, you know, change some of this up as far as the colors and stuff. Don't go to something as loud. Tune it down a little bit. Maybe, you know, just a regular white and chartreuse spinnerbait, or, you know, just a green pumpkin jig, or, you know, something similar to that, something more natural if that water is cleaner where that run-in is. But, you know, either way, we're talking about, you know, muddy water today. So, but those are the areas, those are the baits that I typically like to use. And if the video helps you at all, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more fishing content. I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing. Also, comment down below if you have any questions or you just want to talk bass fishing. Don't forget, let me know your favorite chatterbait down in the comment section below. See you next time.